Welcome to the 700 Club. We're 6 months into the second term of President Trump, and so far he's received some rave reviews from the MAGA faithful. But in recent weeks, anger over military interventions, the handling of the Epstein files have created division inside the movement.
Well, critics are questioning whether the president can mend the wounds among his loyal base. CBN's chief political analyst David Brody takes a closer look.
For the first 5 months, the second Trump administration saw nothing but smooth sailing. But now, some of his biggest cheerleaders are threatening to abandon the team.
Burn, baby, burn.
The far right inside MAGA are done.
We are going to look back on the MAGA movement as the biggest scam in American history.
I voted for none of this. He's doing the exact opposite of everything I voted for.
Inside the movement, especially the No Forever War crowd, there's deep concern with a number of Trump's moves, including the surprise push to arm Ukraine against Russia and bombing Iran, risking another war. For the influential Elon Musk, it came down to the spending in the big, beautiful bill. Popular Trump-friendly podcaster Joe Rogan has complained about ICE raids targeting non-criminals, and the president mentioning the idea of a special work program for illegal migrant farm workers has riled up the base as well.
If I was in the Oval Office, I would say respectfully, Mr. President, MAGA does not want any form of amnesty. Not a work program, not amnesty.
And then there's the handling of the Epstein files. The entire MAGA base calling for transparency, names, and answers, seeing all of this as a deep state cover-up. President Trump just wants it to go away and sees it as a distraction to his winning agenda. He's lashed out at the faithful who won't let it rest by calling them weaklings and saying he doesn't want their future support.
That kind of thing really rocked people more than anything.
Bobby Eberle is a GOP strategist from Texas.
When the name calling starts being directed at us, that's where people, I think, really reacted, and kind of the hurt feelings and the slight damage was done.
The million-dollar question, is this a MAGA marriage spat or something worse?
As far as full wholesale support, I think it is limited to the edges. I think it does affect that enthusiasm. We need to be as strong as possible, and this is one of those energy moments.
And with a handful of tight Senate and House races coming up in the midterm elections, the last thing the Republican Party needs now is any slight MAGA fracture. Gordon?
Well, congratulations on your interview with Speaker Mike Johnson. That was a real incredible interview. What did he have to say about the midterms? Did you ask him about it?
I did, and he's confident. He believes, and we're going to get into this next week on the club because there's so much more in that interview, but he talks about the big, beautiful bill, and he understands that the narrative war that is out there between Democrats saying the big, beautiful bill is immoral, going to cut food assistance, going to cut Medicaid and all of that, is something that they're going to have to push back against. And so he believes very confidently that they can do that. And so in essence, he made the moral case for the big, beautiful bill, something we'll discuss with him next week on the 700 Club.
How big is the deficit in this fracture? That big, beautiful bill seemed to add to it. How big of an issue is that going to be?
Well, it's huge, and Elon Musk obviously has been out front and center on that. And look, if you inject truth serum on Capitol Hill, and by the way, not much truth serum is, it's in short supply on Capitol Hill, Gordon, to be sure. But if you do that, you can be sure that a lot of these fiscal hawks who normally would not at all want to raise the debt ceiling or at least get something in return for it, or be okay with some of what happened in that big, beautiful bill. Normally, they'd be against something like this. But this is Trump's party. This is what he wants. They're going along with it. He's popular in the party. And they're just going to have to swallow hard, if you will. Remember, the Republicans wanted $2 trillion worth of cuts. They got $1.5 trillion or so. They didn't get what the House Freedom Caucus and others wanted. So it's a work in progress, Gordon, for sure.
Well, let's go to one of the screaming headlines, and that is Tulsi Gabbard saying she's got evidence that President Obama's national security team manufactured intelligence. And then yesterday in the Oval Office, Trump accused Obama of treason. Is this going to? Are we going to get into indictments? Is that where this is going?
Well, definitely, as you saw there, when I asked Speaker Johnson about that, he's willing to, in essence, have Barack Obama come in for some sort of deposition or subpoena if it gets to that. So the House is going to take this very seriously. But in the courts, we'll see. They're going to have to dot I's and cross T's here at the DOJ. My sense of it is it'll be some sort of special counsel, ultimately, that looks into all of this. Also, what you might see is a grand jury form down in Florida. And a lot of folks would say, well, why Florida? Well, that Mar-a-Lago raid may have something to do with potential documents that were being looked for as part of all of the declassified documents that Tulsi Gabbard went ahead and declassified. There's a sense that maybe, and we don't know for sure, but maybe some of those documents at the time were thought to be housed at Mar-a-Lago. They were not there. So the point is a federal grand jury could be formed down in Florida. So we wait to see about that as well.
Well, President Obama pushed back on it yesterday, and he pointed to the Senate committee that affirmed that there was Russian interference in the 2016 election. I want to point out that that doesn't cover the investigation of the Trump campaign. That was the first time the FBI had ever been unleashed on a presidential campaign. Nor does it cover the FBI trying to entrap members of President Trump's administration. It's one thing to say the Russians interfered and you've got proof of it. There's another thing to say, well, we manufactured evidence of collusion, and so we went after an incoming administration. What's the difference here, and how important is that difference going to be in the coming months?
Well, I think the key point of all of this was in the last part of Barack Obama, the former president's statement. He specifically said, we never, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, we never said that Russia manipulated the vote machines. Here's the problem with that. If you just look in the last, ever since that happened, in essence, the hacking that the Democrats talked about all the time. They kept saying Russia hacked the elections. Well, to the voter out there who, might not be thinking about hacking into Facebook or any of that. No, they think hacking. They think, well, you mean hacking into the voting machines. As a matter of fact, some Democrats actually said that. So the former president says, we never said that they were manipulating votes. But the talking point from Democrats and many of their other colleagues were, they hacked the election. Well, voters will think hack the election means you manipulated the vote count total. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be sifted through here, and words matter, especially in court.
Well, again, back to my point, it's one thing to say the Russians interfered, whether it's hacking or let's plant social media stories or let's release emails from the Democrats. It's another to say the Trump campaign colluded with them. And that was the accusation. And that's what the FBI, that's what Mueller investigated. And if all of that was invented, that's huge. That's not a little thing. And so are we looking at a red herring? Shouldn't we just be focused on the narrow issue of was the intelligence about Trump campaign collusion manufactured?
Well, that's a good point. And here's another additional question to all of that. What about the Durham report? What about Robert Mueller? What about, let's be honest, the declassified intelligence that Tulsi Gabbard has said has been manufactured happened in December of 2016 and January of 2017. Well, if that's the case, where was the Trump administration all along, the first Trump administration from 2017 to 2021, whether the CIA, FBI, none of this looked at. So there's a lot of folks that may have missed this or intentionally missed it. We don't know. But this kind of goes to the deep state apparatus here, that it's not just Democrats. It could be Republicans and some folks that have been around for a very long time that didn't want this to come out.
All right. Any update on the Epstein files? Are we going to finally see a complete release of all the files?
Well, I think it's a kick the can down the road situation at this point. During the interview with Speaker Mike Johnson, I asked him about, you have any procedural rules or anything that you can do on your end to kind of muck it up, is what I said. And One of those ways to muck it up for sure is to just send everybody home and have no more votes. And that's exactly what he's doing on Wednesday of this week. And there will be no more votes and everybody will go home for August recess. But all that means is that discharge petition, in essence, what Democrats want to do and some Republicans who want to force a vote to have the DOJ release all those Epstein files, that'll be around in September or October. So Speaker Johnson, from a kick the can standpoint, is going to have to deal with it later unless there is some movement in the next month or so on some of these grand jury testimony and transcripts, maybe Ghislaine Maxwell potentially testifying. We'll see. But right now, that still hangs over the head of Republicans for sure.
Okay. Once again, excellent interview. You're saying the rest of it's next week? We got to wait. We got to wait. That's a long time on the news cycle.
I will say this, if you don't mind, if I have a quick little snippet. Would you like to? Can we hear that for a moment? Is that all right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen to this. This is specifically about his relationship with Trump. He loves Trump. Trump loves him. We get into that. And then I asked him if maybe he'd do a Trump impression. Take a look, Gordon.
I hear you do a great Trump impression. I've seen it. I've seen it. Now, please, will you indulge us for at least 10 to 15 seconds? Like, for example, if he was in the room with you and he wants you to get some more stuff done, you've already done so much, what would he be telling you?
He would say, I love CBN, it's great. You're straight out of Central Casting. What a great host for this program. And we love our evangelicals, we love our Catholics, we love all people of faith. That's what we say.
I love it. I love how he says the evangelicals and the Catholics.
He means it to his core.
All right, David, thanks for that tease. And thanks so much for joining with us. Let's turn to Israel. And as the fighting continues in Gaza, Hamas is now claiming, and I'll put this in quotes, civilians are starving, close quote. Israel says there are 950 trucks inside the territory waiting for agencies to distribute their goods. Julie Stahl reports from Jerusalem.
In Gaza, the IDF continues its latest offensive against terror groups. As Hamas continues to fight the IDF in the streets, it's also waging a media war, saying the people of Gaza are starving. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation says it's distributed more than 2 million meals in 2 locations yesterday and sent a letter to the United Nations calling for more collaboration to deliver life-saving aid to Gaza. The IDF released drone footage and a statement saying there are currently 950 trucks full of aid waiting inside Gaza for international organizations to pick up and distribute. And social media posts claim that more Gazans are protesting against Hamas, demanding that the terror group surrender and leave. Meanwhile, the U.S. says it's pulling out of the UN cultural agency UNESCO because of its divisiveness and anti-Israel rhetoric.
UNESCO's decision to admit the, quote, state of Palestine, end quote, as a member state is highly problematic, contrary to U.S. policy, and contributed to the proliferation of anti-Israel rhetoric within the organization.
Back in Israel, U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee says the issue concerning visas for American evangelical organizations, quote, has been fully resolved. In a statement, Huckabee said, American Christians are some of Israel's strongest supporters, and the resolution of this issue among friends is a welcome outcome. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Please keep all information, press releases coming out of Hamas. Please question all of them. It's absolutely incredible. The disinformation they're capable of spreading around the world. And so they're claiming starvation. 950 trucks are waiting for distribution. They're claiming IDF firing on civilians, and it's actually themselves firing on civilians. They're claiming Jews are burning churches in the West Bank, and the church wasn't burned at all. So watch out for the disinformation coming out of Hamas.